Hi, I'm Elizabeth Gearhart with Fireside. I'm here with Gershon Morgulis. Gershon has Imperial Advisory Outsourced CFOs. Gershon, why would people work with you instead of someone else?
Well, Elizabeth, one, thanks for having me on today. And two, that's a great question. The reason is our CFOs are business people. We're Our people in general have been both a CEO as well as a CFO. So while they identify as CFOs, they've actually owned businesses, run businesses as CEOs, as well as president, chief operating officers, etc. So with us, you get a lot more than numbers. We're an operational CFO firm.
So, if I'm looking for a part time CFO, what do I look for?
Well, you really want someone who the CEO can lean on. So when we're dealing with a company that doesn't have a CFO, this person becomes the best friend of the CEO. This becomes the confidant. This is the person who understands both the numbers and the business and translates the numbers into something that the CEO can really use to run the business. And so you want someone who the CEO is really comfortable with, who the CEO can trust, and who has that attitude and feeling that they want to give and they want to help. And there's a lot of mentorship involved. And while I might look a little young to be mentoring CEOs with 30 years of experience, the people on our team in general have well over 30 years of experience. And part of our job is really to mentor these CEOs and to help them become the best version of themselves.
So, numbers wise, what exactly does a CFO do?
Well, there's a range of things that fall under the CFO's purview. It starts with getting the history correct, because if you don't know history, it's going to be tough to know what's going on in the future. We generally call that accounting. That's accounting, it's bookkeeping, and in a traditional organization, that often falls under the CFO's purview. When we come into companies, typically they have that portion taken care of. That exists before we get there. So there already is a bookkeeper, maybe an external or internal. Sometimes it's being run by the accounting firm. Where we get involved is on a lot of the forward-looking work. It's taking that history and using it to guide us in making plans for the future of the business.
So, can you give me an example of how a CFO can help a business?
Sure. If you have a business that is making money, right? They sold $1 million of goods. They had $500,000 of expenses and $100,000 of overhead. They're left with $400,000. So if you want to grow the business, you might say, hey, we should sell more stuff and make more money. Sometimes a CFO will help you understand that growing can result in a cash flow problem. Not that you shouldn't grow, but help you anticipate, understand that, and whether it's avoid the problem or take proper measures to make sure that that doesn't become a problem, which might be putting in a line of credit, changing the way that you bill customers or pay vendors. There are all sorts of things, tools in our toolbox. I mean, another thing that CFO might help you realize is that some of those products that you're selling are actually less profitable than others, or maybe not profitable at all. You might be able to make more money by cutting certain product lines. And by digging in and understanding what the true drivers of the business are, the CFO can really help the CEO and help the rest of the organization become more profitable.
That is so important. So, there may be some places, like I'm thinking of my husband's intellectual property firm, some products are more profitable than others. So do you drop the less profitable ones? Do you raise the prices on those? I mean, I think, and so a CFO can help you say, okay, if you do this, you're going to make this profit by the end of the year. If you go this way, you're going to make this profit. And maybe there's some emotional attachment to some of the things that you have in your business, right? So
Right.
you need an outside person to say, look here. And you really give that outside perspective.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a benefit we have during the beginning of an engagement. We're really an outside perspective. As time goes on, we depending on our level of involvement, we do run the risk of becoming more involved, but it takes a while till an outside person assumes that perspective of, this is what we've always done. So yeah, you're 100% right. There is a value that having an outside perspective brings. And to your other point about products or services offerings that are less profitable, it's sometimes you cut, sometimes you don't, sometimes there's a loss leader, but it's really more about understanding. By understanding what you're losing on each offer, and then understanding who's coming in and buying that and what that does for you, it's that enables you to make good decisions. I'll tell you, we have a client, happens to be a nonprofit, which most of our clients are businesses. We have a few nonprofits that we've worked with over the years. They had this program, which for them, I guess you could call an investment. They gave candles, Hanukkah time, to whoever. They sent this huge mailing list and they sent out candles. And every year they sent it out. And someone came in and said, one day said, why are we sending these candles out? We haven't really gotten donations or whatever it was. And at some point, they got like millions of dollars from that. They had one person they were the only person who ever mailed that person. They were the only organization that ever cared about that person. That person left millions of dollars in their will to the organization. So sometimes it's about understanding. And obviously, when you're dealing with one, it becomes complicated to quantify that. But the idea is sometimes you have a lot of small investments, and the goal is to have only 1 in every 100 convert. So you might have this small product where you don't really make money, or the small offering. Maybe it's the simplest version for a law firm is a free consultation. Every free consultation costs you money, right? But if 1 in every 100 free consultations results in a client with a serious lawsuit, I suspect that you make your money back.
Yes, we do. So, you're taking a very holistic approach. And I think that sometimes people make mistakes when they don't take a holistic approach because, like you said, there are things that you're doing. And maybe sending out the candles for Hanukkah was something they really enjoyed doing too. Like, and it showed the culture and of their firm, of their company, right?
Correct. Yeah. There was the whole, as a nonprofit, and where their mission was to serve the community, there was the whole other argument, and this was before I was there, but there was the whole mission argument for doing it anyway. But what I'm just bringing that example as something where it was 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 2,000. But if that's a repeatable process, then that becomes justifiable from a business sense. You're 100% correct, though, particularly for nonprofits, but even for businesses, there are things that you don't do, that the goal is not necessarily to be profitable. In a private business, that's perfectly reasonable. If you're dealing with shareholders, a publicly traded business, it becomes a little more complicated. It's a whole ethical issue of like, where do you draw the line of stakeholders versus shareholders? And I talk about that. I'm a professor, so I talk about this with my students. I'm not prepared to discuss it here today. I have my opinions on that, but there's the business perspective, and most of the time there is a business angle to doing things. And when people look at it and say, well, that's just going to cost us money, very often that's not the case. And I'll give you one quick example. My partner likes to say that taking care of your people is your best ROI. Now, some people would say, well, taking care of your people, we're wasting money, we're making parties, we're giving benefits, what's in it for us? And then there's the whole, like I said, there's a whole argument of maybe what's in it, maybe you should just be nice people anyway. But my partner, who's a veteran CFO with decades of experience, insists that what he always found was that taking care of your people actually made the business more money as well. So very often there's no conflict.
I agree with that 100%. So where are you teaching?
I'm a professor at Truro College, currently located in my basement, formerly located in Brooklyn on Avenue J, on their Avenue J campus.
In what?
And
I was just going to say, what classes are you teaching?
I teach finance.
Okay.
So it's the principles of finance. It's an entry-level finance course, pretty much taken by every business, accounting, marketing major. And we get a broad array of students. I would say the majority are accounting, so that's always fun, particularly if they've taken a few accounting courses because we show them a little bit of a different perspective on life. Life is a little bit broader than GAAP. Business is broader than GAAP, which stands for generally accepted accounting principles.
Exactly. Yeah. So how far out can a CFO project?
Oh, that's a good one. How far out can a CFO project? The answer is it depends. Sorry, what
Of
what what
course.
what can I do? Like everything in life, it depends. It really, again, this goes back to the fundamentals of business. It's what kind of business are you in? Is the revenue stream fixed or variable? Can you control your expenses? The more that you can control or predict things, the better of an idea you have. The more diversified you are, the better you can predict if or how things will change, right? If you've got one type of revenue, say you're a law firm and you do evictions, right? Then Corona comes and they put a stay on evictions. There's no evictions. You can't do that. But say you're a law firm and you do evictions and business law. Okay. There might be a bad business environment that actually would be at the same time that there tend to be more evictions. Now it happens to be in Corona time, maybe business slowed down, but I don't know if that's the case. There's plenty of business going on now, and lawyers who don't need courts do well. So it depends. There's that, and there's obviously there's expenses, but the different components, and we discussed this in school as well. I mean, you might be if you're an international business, you have foreign exchange risk, which means you could sell the same number of units for the same price and still make more or less money because the value of the currency changes, right? If you're doing everything in yen and you're an American company, you might make less money or more money than you made last year by selling the exact same number of widgets, which you produced with the exact same number of hours for the exact same price, all in Japan. So it depends on the variables. It depends on what you can control. But we help clients. We can do to the degree that you can predict sales and you have a solid hit and you can control expenses. Expenses is often more an issue of controlling, and revenue is more predicting. But the question is, can you predict? Do you have contracts? Obviously all your clients could go bankrupt, but if you have contracts, if you have retainers, there are different systems and different things you can use to help you be more or less
So,
predictable.
so what happens if inflation spikes? I mean, are there ways a business can adjust in other areas to account for that? I mean, your employees are going to want raises because the price of food went up. What do you do?
All right. So that's another, you have a lot of very good questions. But inflation is potentially an issue, but I think the way I'd approach it is if inflation happens and you're dealing, let's assume domestically, then everything becomes more expensive. So yeah, your salaries are more expensive, but in theory, you could charge more because the money has just been devalued. So everything should be more. The issue is when you have short-term or even long-term changes in particular parts of the economy, and say you have wage inflation, but there's something off you can't raise prices for some reason. Let's say then that's where you are in trouble. But what I would say is in general, what we would advise people to do and what people have done, what businesses have done is you do your best to adapt. And so you say, listen, maybe we can sell other products, change our product mix, our product offering. Maybe we can get involved with more automation. I don't want to get political at all, but there was an editorial about 2 years ago in the Wall Street Journal by the CEO of a major food chain who said, this is not a threat. I guess maybe it was a promise or a prediction. He said, if they raise minimum wage, we're going to hire machines instead of people to take orders. It's like, we're not punishing anyone. That's just, like you said, what happens if there's inflation and we can't pass the price on? At a certain point, I don't know what that point is. For him, it was the change between the current minimum wage and the new minimum wage. But at a certain point, and that's with wages, it could happen with other things. I'll tell you, I had a professor once who, when I was in grad school, they had a problem. The price of chocolate went up, and they had branded that they were a chocolate company, a famous chocolate company, a famous candy type company. They had branded themselves as only selling genuine chocolate, so they couldn't use fake chocolate like some of their competitors. They had to use real chocolate, and they couldn't pass the price on. Why? I don't know. But so he said, what are you supposed to do? And what they ended up doing was they invented peanut butter chips, and they sold them for the same price as chocolate chips. And they lost money on every single chocolate chip they sold, but they made 10 times as the margin on every peanut butter chip they sold. And so they figured out a way to change the product mix and still keep everything at the same price. So there's plenty of things that you can do to adapt. But yeah, I mean, you have to understand what the different components. There's the price, there's what you pay, there's what you're paying your people, what you can charge. It's a big matrix.
Well, and a CFO helps you figure that all out because I mean, the CEO trying to do that by themselves, maybe they're the visionary, maybe, they really need somebody who understands these kinds of pressures and how they interplay with each other to really help them figure out how to wade through this maze of keeping their business profitable, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, to your point, the CEO is often the chief, like like a chief marketing officer, a chief rah-rah person, a chief visionary. That's what the CEO is. Their job is to define ways to grow the business. But sometimes the CEO's got 4 different ways to grow the business. And so the question is, who is there that you can lean on? And so go back to our chocolate chip story. That CEO didn't just need the finance people, they also needed the marketing people. The marketing people are going to tell them, you can't erode your brand by giving fake chocolate. And the finance people are going to say, here's what it's going to cost us to develop this new type of chip. I
Right.
mean, also the product people, but right, finance is going to be a component of all that, and looking at where it's going to go in the future. And we're going to lose this amount on the chocolate, but it will still be worth it because we'll make it up on that. Or maybe the goal is to lose less for a few months until chocolate prices stabilize or till the market caught up. Because eventually, like I said at the beginning, if prices go up, eventually you should be able to charge more.
Right. So,
Because
yeah, so it sounds like, I mean, I just wanted to get into your expertise a little bit. It sounds like you have a really deep level of expertise in finance, which is what you want in somebody running a CFO company. So, your CFOs, do they come in all day? Do they come in 4 hours a day, 4 hours a month? How does it work with a small business that wants a part-time CFO?
so we're a smaller agency, and at this point we're kind of flexible. We try to tailor things to the client, but the way we think of it is we're not anywhere full time. That's not our goal. Our goal is to work with these smaller of the mid-size range businesses, and to work with them and give them what they need. Now that is often, figure 1 to maybe 3 days a month. It could be more, it could be less. It's often broken out, several, maybe once a week, half a day a week, 1 day a week. It kind of, but it really ends up depending on the business. Now, we're a little different than some of the others in our space in that we're open to doing flat monthly fees. So the clients have knowledge of what it will cost. And so we figure out what we think we'll be putting in, and we'll give the client a flat fee. And that's different because in a certain way, what we're providing, and coronavirus has really helped this. It's just like, call us when you need us. We're here. We'll schedule these meetings, but we're really here for you. And it's almost like having the CFO. We're each in our own home or location, but you call us. You need us, you call us. So it's not so much about clocking hours as much as taking care of the client.
Well, I love that flat fee. So, I mean, that really helps you plan when you're trying to plan all your expenses. So, yes,
Right.
your typical clients are small businesses. So, do you have a success story of somebody who came to you? Maybe they were losing money, maybe they didn't know which direction to go, and you really helped them grow their business?
Yeah. I mean, we have a client right now who one of our CFOs is working on. He came to us during Corona, and he had some major issues. I mean, he was losing money. He had just gotten a whole bunch of stimulus money. His question was, what should I do with this so that I make the best decisions going forward? And we really helped him with honing out, looking at his different business lines, where he was making money, how he was making his money, looking at the options for investment. And then as time has gone on, this has really been an interesting client for us, because this CFO who was on this client, or I should say the primary CFO. The truth is, we'll often have more than one CFO working on a client, or more of a consulting firm than a staffing agency. But the CFO who spent most of the time with this client has background as a CEO, is very into the people side of things, and he's been helping the client hire people as well, and helping coach this CEO. This is a relatively young CEO. He's probably around the age of 40, and our CFO that's in there is 60 plus, right? So he's done this for decades. He's coaching the CFO on hiring people, on how to run a management meeting. This is a little bit atypical, but that's really the breadth of our, the depth of our bench. And what we're able to do is that when we notice problems, and we've brought in outside professionals as well. Our goal is not to take over the whole relationship. We brought in HR people. I think we've almost brought in legal people. We brought in an executive coach. But as the CFO, who's part of the management team, we have the ability to take a more holistic view there as well.
That is awesome, because really, when you're talking money and bottom line, who you hire has such an impact on that, right?
Right.
If you get the wrong person, you can get yourself in trouble. Well, this sounds like just a wonderful organization, a wonderful business. So, are you just in the United States? Do you do the whole country? Do you do international? Who do you help?
That's a good question. So we currently, all of our clients are domestic clients. They're United States based, but we work with their teams around the world.
Okay.
In general, we're looking for people in the United States or Asia, if they can speak, not Asia, United States or Europe, if they can speak English.
Mhm.
We're not really looking for Asia or Australia, because it's nearly impossible to conduct business during business hours, which makes it difficult to service, which we can do, but as we grow, I don't want to be asking our staff to do that. So
Right.
I
It
don't
is.
want to grow that way.
It is tough when the time change gets so big that
Yeah.
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 Yeah, great. Is there anything else that you need to add?
Um, we have an amazing team, and we'd love to talk to you, the listener. Um, we've got tons of great experience, many different industries. We have I'll give one piece of advice to everyone. This is a piece of advice I actually got from one of my ostensibly competitors, someone else in our spaces. I was looking to grow the business. He said to me, if you want to grow your business, you have to make sure that whoever you bring on is better than you. So you never want to be in a position where, you speak with a client, they say, oh no, I need you specifically. You have to be able to say, my people are even better. And I feel like I'm in that position. I've really got a great team. My partner is awesome. Our other CFOs are awesome. And if there's any way we can help, or you want to just call and say hello, Elizabeth has our contact info.
Excellent. And that is a great place to be, where your employees are better than you are. That's a sign of a great manager. So, congratulations.
Do our best.